Good evening, Trump's family. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you for joining me. How are you? Have a good night, everyone, and God bless you. Alright, now we will come to today's news. And things are not looking good for Alec Baldwin whatsoever, the Trump-hating individual who continues to dream about Trump being arrested and prosecuted is facing his own legal troubles now, where the DA over in New Mexico is looking to have all options on the table, including homicide charges against Alec Baldwin. And this is someone who truly is a despicable individual when it comes to how he behaves, how he treats individuals, and how he goes about his life, and how he denied that he even pulled the trigger that ended the life of that camera woman Hutchinson's earlier or late last year. So we're going to go ahead and dive into the story as we continue to kind of follow it, see where it goes. So let's go and take a look at what we have here. Coming to us from the Gateway Peninsula, Santa Fe prosecutor says all options are on the table in charges over the Ross film shooting Alec Baldwin as possible defendant. This not looking good for him, by the way. In October of 2021, Alec Baldwin shot and killed a crew member on the movie set where he was filming to Western Rust in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Baldwin allegedly discharged a prop gun that killed 17 Conifer Haley, Hutchins and wounded director Joel Seuss. Was hospitalized after a gun was holding discharge on the set of The Rite of Rust last Thursday. So here we have a little bit more here. Remember Stephanopoulos? It says, do you feel guilty in Alabama? Once Alec Baldwin said no, someone is responsible for what happened and I can't say who that is, but I know it's not me, and feel guilty. Of course he's a narcissist. Gateway Pundit reported that the gun that Baldwin fired is a revolver. You can read the report about it. It's a .45 long Colt revolver. You must open in the loading gate to access the cylinder to load the cartridge, and you must cock the hammer manually, otherwise it will not fire. Once the hammer is cocked, and only slight pressure on a trigger will release the hammer to initiate the firing cycle. The Santa Fe, New Mexico District Attorney has announced she is ready to file charges against 4 people. Baldwin may be included in those charges. The prosecutors have indicated that they may charge Baldwin over the fatal shooting of the cinematographer. Hey, Elena Hutchison on the side of the movie Ross last year after the actor handed over his cell phone to be considered as evidence in a letter to the state's financial board asking for funding to prosecute the high-profile case. Santa Fe's district attorney, Mary Carmack, said she was ready to file charges against 4 people and they're in, and homicide is on the table. When asked about the charges against Baldwin, Vass asked about the DA said asked about whether Baldwin could be charged. The district, all options are on the table at this point. So yeah. It's not going to, I don't believe it's going to play out very well for Alec Baldwin, as he continues to deal with his legal troubles in New Mexico stemming from the death of the cinematographer Helena Hutchins. So we'll see how this continues to unfold. I'll continue to follow the story for you guys. Let me know in the comments down below. What do you guys think may happen? Do you think that Alec Baldwin will face charges and could possibly be sent to prison? And I do not care what the polls say on surface level. Even though most of the polls that we're seeing right now were starting to favor Republicans, and it's painting a very good image. I don't care what the surface level Democrat versus Republican numbers are. I really want to focus on all of the factors and all of the nuance. That is how you get the true image, the true picture of what is most likely to come in the election in 2022. And this has been my grievance with what all of these Democrats on Twitter have been saying. They completely ignore all of the most reputable pollsters and then just blink something like this. Yes, of course. Veterans leading by 21 points. Kelly's leading by 15. Warnock by 10 and Ryan by say. Totally believable. Great job, Echelon Insights. But for real, Democrats post this stuff because it fits their copious dreams, it fits what they're hoping, and they actually believe it is absolute garbage. Polls and even some of these more perceived reputable pollsters, the numbers on surface level mean nothing. At the end of the day, there are so many factors, especially when trying to gauge Republican support and Republican voter turnout. And the moment you start to see pollsters or particular polls apply some of these factors to their polling data, or if you delve into the actual numbers and filter out some of the nonsense and some of the crap like polling all adults, for instance, and you start to focus in on only likely voters, motivated voters, a completely different picture emerges. And this right here, friends, is exactly why the pollsters get it so wrong every single time unless we're in a Democrat-favored environment. Well, this week, folks, surprisingly enough, we have a string of pollsters who are finally screening specifically for likely voters. And well, let's just say it's not exactly what Democrats were hoping for. It's painting a very, very different image, Let's just say a leftist meltdown-inducing image as Republicans continue to surge. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on here. As finally people are starting to wake up to the voter enthusiasm gap and the Republican voter turnout element of this election. Alright, friends, so people are finally starting to focus in on the most important factor. Even Fox News did a piece on it this week with Robert Haley from Trafalgar Group. Republican turnout will exceed even what we predict. Robert Haley. Wider pollsters keep getting the numbers wrong. And under-reporting GOP support, everyone listen to this. It's a pattern here. Well, it certainly is. And I think part of it is that they keep asking these ridiculously long questionnaires, and they just lose average people. And in 2016, you have shot Trump voters who are hesitant, because just to say who they were for, they didn't want to be judged for it. And 2020 they were a little leery to even participate in polls. And I think this time, it can be worse. Robert, I got about a minute left, a little less. You have a really brilliant strategy where you guys ask the neighbors about how US vote. How does that work? How do you eliminate bias away? Well, what we would do is we would just ask. It was a device I learned a few years back. We would just ask people, how do you think your neighbors are voting? Its projection device or allow people to explain that. Yes, maybe I'm for Hillary, but my neighbors are all for Trump, and let them say they were for Trump without being judged. This year, our fear is that people are not going to be polled that are Trump supporters. Because all that Biden has said and all the apparent attacks, and people coming after them, and they're just hesitant, even participate. I think everybody will underestimate them, including us. Republican turnout or exceed even what we predict. Okay, and well, like usual, Robert Haley has a point, and I know this because the data is backing him up. A bunch of new polls recently released 2022 generic congressional ballot polling among likely voters alone. Take a look at this dataset. ABC/The Washington Post, a left-leaning pollster showing the GOP in the lead at 51% to 46%. A +5 lead when screening specifically for likely voters. CBS/YouGov showing a GOP lead of +1. This is incredibly significant, because as you guys know, YouGov is one of the worst, most Democrat bias pollsters currently calculated, and all of the averages, and they've been showing Democrat leads all the way up to +8 over the last 2 months. Well, immediately as they screen for likely voters. Would you look at that? Look at that. Yeah, we'll get there. The GOP suddenly takes the lead even in a massively oversampled Democrat survey. I've showed you guys countless YouGov polls when we delve into the data whether undersampling Republican voters by over 10 percentage points, but the list goes on. We have the McAllen Republican poll and the data for Progress Democrat poll both showing GOP leads, and Trafalgar Group showing a +6 lead. All of these polls specifically focusing in on unlikely voters. This is what I mean by the numbers themselves don't mean anything. You got to look at the numbers, and then you got to apply the factors. If you're looking at a poll from whatever polling outlet, and it's just looking at adults, and it's oversampling Democrats, what kind of result do you think you're gonna get? You're pulling all kinds of people who aren't politically involved, all kinds of people who don't necessarily pay attention, and they have the default value of Republicans bad. Fox News evil orange man bad, and he asked them who are they gonna vote for. And they're gonna say, I guess the Democrats, I guess Joe Biden. But the question is that person likely to vote in a midterm? Is that person likely to skip going out to dinner or going to the bar, taking a girl on a date, sacrificing their personal social life in order to go vote, and wait in line for however many hours depending on the situation? In many cases, that person will not show up. And the same thing with young voters. Many young voters talk a big game, they have all these grandiose political ideas and stances, they're staunch Democrats, staunch socialists. They spent a whole lot of time on Twitch watching Hassan Piker and attacking MAGA chugs on r/politics on Reddit. But will they go vote? A significant portion won't. Guess what, folks? Republican voters and independent voters who are currently being crushed by the increases in cost of living that are seeing their 401ks disintegrate. People are seeing the increase in crime in their communities. People who are seeing businesses suffer under Democrat leadership. Those people are showing up, and guess what? They're voting Republican, and they're planning on voting Republican in the most important districts. Take a look at this. This is from the ABC/Washington Post poll. Republicans hold a 21-point lead on generic congressional ballot in battleground districts, Republicans at 55+21 over Democrats at 34. In moderate battleground states, in battleground districts, Just like I've been saying, independents are splitting for the Republicans at a 2-to-1 ratio in many cases. And we're seeing that right over here. Republicans not only leading, Republicans leading by 21 points in the most important, most pivotal battleground districts. You mean to tell me that Democrats stand a chance here? Oh, but liberal hive mind, and to see the poll where John Fetterman is leading by 24 points. Oh, didn't you see the poll where Liz Cheney is winning by 75 points? No, pay attention. Pay attention to suburban voters, pay attention to independent voters, pay attention to the political trend amongst the most important voter blocks, and pay attention to likely voters. I mean, just take a look at this on Real Clear Politics, just so you guys can see it visually. All the polls conducted in the earlier portion of the month, almost all of them except for one, are among registered voters. Democrats are leading all of a sudden. The last 1234 polls that were released, the ones that we're talking about, and this is actually admitting Trafalgar Group, or rather actually, Trafalgar Group did a likely vote earlier in the month. That's the one that stands out. All of a sudden the race flips on its head and Republicans lead in every single poll. This is what happens when you actually apply the important factors when collecting your data. Once again, the party of science is looking at this whole thing completely unscientifically. Oh, this one poll agrees with my narrative and confirms my worldview. Therefore, oh, abortion, angry women are going to win us this election. No, and even that argument is completely ridiculous. The idea that abortion or the most recent Roe v. Wade decision only helps generate voter enthusiasm for the Democrats, as former Governor Christie on ABC as This Week puts it, that's not true at all. Everyone listen to this, he said. Let's talk about the abortion issue, because 84% of the voters say the economy is their top issue. Only 62% say abortion. And when you go deeper into the poll and look at some of the crosstabs on this, what our poll is showing is that the pro-life people are more motivated by the abortion issue to vote in these midterms than the pro-choice people are. Well, what our poll is showing is that the pro-life people are more motivated by the abortion issue to vote in these midterms than pro-choice people are. This, once again, is exactly what I've been saying. The keys here are voter enthusiasm. The keys are demographics, important issues, and every single one of those factors currently benefits the Republican Party, every single one, the issues and the policies. Republicans are winning. We've covered that a million times. Voter enthusiasm. Republicans are winning likely voter polling data. Republicans are winning demographic shifts. Republicans are winning with suburban voters, independent voters, they're gaining black votes, they're gaining Hispanic votes. They're gaining support amongst Asian American voters across the board. Republicans are gaining, Republicans are winning, and the moment the data just starts to apply one of these factors, just screening for likely voters, all of a sudden across the board we see Republican leads. It's an I told you so moment. I'm sticking to my prediction here. Republicans win the House, Republicans win the Senate, and I don't think it's going to be even close. This might be the red tsunami that a lot of you guys have been waiting for. Thank you for watching the video.